Hello and welcome back to Cracking the Cryptic. Now, continuing my ongoing battle with the Sudoku Grand Prix round 7. And at this stage now we've got to the last 4 puzzles. Going by the times achieved, I've still got just over 10 minutes before the time will run out. Now, realistically, I don't know. I think there's an issue over whether I'd be quicker on paper, and I'm beginning to think that there may be a significant difference there, more than I'd thought before. I'd previously assessed it at about a minute a puzzle. I have a feeling, if not just from the times achieved, that the difference is a bit more, because I would normally get through one of these tests scoring about 75% of the available points. And even if I get one of these puzzles done in 10 minutes, and I'd probably choose the classic if I had 10 minutes left in a real test, then I'll still be only on about 65% of the points. So a bit disappointing, but on the other hand, I think they've all been correct, so that's something. The other issue is that possibly I would have given up on one of the harder ones, like the Fortress, which I really struggled with. I might have got 2 or 3 minutes into that and given up and moved on to something else, which may or may not have been a good decision. But anyway, today I'm going to have a look at the Classic and the Min-Max, which I solved earlier, and we're going to watch my solve as usual and see how we go on. So starting with the Classic. Now this is the hardest Classic in the test. The time expected for a solver finishing the whole series was about 8 minutes, so 10 minutes would be quite a good time. First of all, noting some pencil mark 2s up here because of the 2 2s in the central chute. Also, there are 7s in the central chute, 2s in the bottom chute. No fixed numbers going in yet, and that's kind of what you'd expect from one of the harder puzzles. This 4 and the pattern in the central box are very useful in determining that there must be 4s in one of these 2 cells, and the same goes the other way for 8s. And finally, I've noticed the 6s in the central chute, which were available from the very beginning to give me a 6 there. So that's taken nearly a minute to get a number placed that I could have done in a couple of seconds. Bit disappointing. Again, 7s and 2s, in fact, in this central chute across, giving a 2-7 pair here. And it's great to get a pair. They're very powerful because they rule out those 2 cells from being anything else. So that's allowing me to place 6s, 5s, and 9s in 2 squares of this box over here. But still not a vast amount more progress. I've managed to put 3s in 2 offset cells here. We don't know which one is a 3 yet. And now, using these 6s and 9s that we've put in, we can determine that there must be a 6 and a 9 in this group of 3 cells on the right hand side, but again, it's not clear which one. Now down here, again, taken far too long, nearly 2 minutes in before I've noticed that 9s and 7s are available in this central chute and resolved which way round they are by this 9 to fill these 2 cells in this box. But again, that's helping place some other pair possibilities, 9s there and 4s there. The fact that 4s can't be in column 2 down in this box or this box allows this 4 to go in. And 2.5 minutes in, I've now got 4 digits placed for sure. It's very low return, indicating, I think, that the puzzle is pretty difficult. Now, what I haven't noticed here immediately is that this is a 1-4 pair up here because of the 1 here and the 4 here. And that's quite powerful because that puts an 8-5 pair down here. So, okay, picking it up now, in go the, put that in the wrong box, in go the 5-8 pair in the bottom central box. That resolves these 5s, which were a possible pair. And that now puts 5s and 1s over here. 1s similarly because they're forming a chute now over here. And that's allowed me to get on with 4, 2, and 8 here. So it feels like very good progress, a very good logical solve, but we're 3.5 minutes in. Now these 2 8s that we've got now in the first set of columns should put an 8 up here fairly comfortably. This 2 actually has been available from the beginning to resolve that 7-2 pair, so that was pretty poor form to have written those in as a 7-2 pair, but now column 2's finished. And I've got quite a lot of progress really over the left-hand side. 9s have suddenly become possible in the central left box, and we've got a 4-5 pair over this side. So quite a lot of this done now, but that hasn't helped push over to the right particularly. And now I'm looking around trying to find somewhere to go. We've done the 6s that are in a shoot over here. 6, 4, 5, that's a pair of 2s, but that's fairly obvious. It's not particularly groundbreaking solve. Now, in the central box, we've got 6, 7, 2, 9 placed originally, and 4 and 8 determined by where they intersect with the central box, but no other digit is actually ruled out of any one cell. Now, how have we picked up that that's a 2, 1 there? I think that's come about because I can't remember now, even though I didn't solve this long ago. I'm stopping the clock here for a second. Was that? I don't think that was a bifurcation. I think that was given in some way. 2, 2, 2 could theoretically have been in either of those places. 2s are in row 2 and 3 there. Why couldn't it have been 2 here, 2 here, and then 2 here? Okay, there it is. Sorry, it's taken me a while to see that, but yes, it was given because we had 5, 8 here, 4 and 3. So in row 1, we have 1, 2, 6, 7 and 9 to place, and in this box we already have 6, 7 and 9. So these top 2 cells have to be 1 and 2. So I'll start it again, and that's how we get that. Sorry, that's a misprint there. This has to be a 6 because of the 7 and 9 below it. Then we have 9 and 7 to place in these remaining cells. And that's quite a significant step forward. Now, we could do a uniqueness thing. These 2 cells, either side of the 6, can't be 5 and 8 because there's a 5, 8 pair down here. In fact, I've determined, look, one of them has to be an 8 because of this 8 pair that we've placed in the central box. So 8 goes there. 8 must be in one of these 2 places. 8 can't be in the central square here. So in column 8, the only 8 positions left, well, actually, it's this one here. That's the only one because it can't be there because of the 8 in row 9. So 8 actually has to be here. I've done it another way and found that we have to have a 3 there, but now I've spotted that 8 there. And this is going to be quite good progress. In this box down here, we've got 1, 5 as a pair, 9, 8, 3, 4 placed, so 2, 7 and 6 to go. Yes, as I was saying about uniqueness, we could assume that these can't be 5 and 8 in this pair because that would give us a uniqueness problem with the 5, 8 down here. That means this cell has to be a 5. And I mean, in speed solving, if I'd spotted that, I'd have filled that in straight away. This becomes 3, this becomes 8. And we've got quite a lot of progress to build on there. But instead, I'm working now down at the bottom of the grid. Managed to place the 4 because of this 4. This has to be a 3 or a 5. Yeah, it would be useful to spot this uniqueness situation at this point. But I know some of you don't like the lack of logical solve about uniqueness issues, although personally I can't really see a problem with that, as long as one's convinced that the puzzle is indeed a genuine one-solution puzzle. It seems a perfectly fair way to go to me. Now we've got 8, 9, 3. Okay, so there I've determined that that must be the 4 from this 4 and that 4. Once that 3's gone in, then this has to be a 4. And that 3 was able to go in because this 6, 9 was able to be restricted to a pair in columns 7 and 9. So that put the 3 in, that put the 4 in, and now we're really moving on. 8 has had to be over here, and that's given us an 8 up here. That probably looked across and not made anything from that, but I mean, we're really getting close here now. This cell has to be a 1 or a 5. Still a bit of a pause, and I mean 8 minutes now, and frankly, if I knew in a real test that I was now within 2 minutes of having to hand in, I'd be very worried that a high value puzzle was proving this difficult and that I only had 2 minutes left to finish it off. But I would obviously stick with it because so much progress has been made, we must be close to a solution. So we've got either 3 or 5 here, therefore 1 and 8 must be in the central column here. Now, how am I picking this up? 1, 5 and 8, those must either be 1, 5 or 8, yes. We've already got 4, 2, 3, 7 placed in this box, and 6, 9, now that can't actually be a 5, must be a 1 or an 8. And this 2 has been determined by the 2's here. In fact, that's taken about a minute to spot, a very straightforward digit, so a bit disappointing there. But anyway, that 2 is very helpful. It'll allow us to place a 2 here, and meanwhile the whole left side has collapsed now. And now it's just a case of finishing off, and given that we had to do it in 10 minutes, should be okay from here. 9 minutes, 10, still about 15 or 20 digits to put in, but they should really just follow. So in go the 8, 3, 5, 8 and 5 that could have been resolved by that uniqueness thing earlier on. Finishing off the central box, we've just got these 2 cells on the right hand side to go here. 9, 6, yeah, and now this is a 9, 1 pair which is resolved. So there we go, that's the first puzzle done, and just in time to register. So moving on to the min-max, which is the first of its type that I've ever tried. The numbers outside the grid here show in the first 3 cells what the total of the minimum and maximum number in those 3 cells are. So down here, 16, that has to be 7 and 9, and therefore the other number in those 3 cells has to be an 8. Now, given that in this box, there has to be a 1, obviously, in one of the other 3, and if it was here, it would be 1 and 5 to make 6. And then you would have to have 2 and what to make 7 there? 2 and 5, or 3 and 4, and they couldn't have a number between them. So the only possibility was 1, 5, 6 for the 7, 2, 3, 4 for the 6. Now, down here we had 11, 8, 11. Now obviously neither of the 11s can have a 1 in, because you couldn't make up the minimum and maximum with a 1. So the 1 had to be in the 8, which also had to have the 7 in it. Now it's impossible at this stage to resolve which of the 11s has 2 and 9 and which of them has 3 and 8. And even if one knew that, one couldn't decide the 5 and 6. So you have to kind of find weak points in this structure, and 16, a really high number, was one of them. A really low number would have been helpful, like if you could see a 4 around the outside, that would obviously have to be a 1, 2, 3 triple. But without that, now I've decided that this is 1, 8, because for the 1 to be in the 10 row, there would have to be 1, 9, and the 9 is already in that row over here, so that couldn't be 1, 9. So the 9 has to include 1 and 8. Now, what can the 10 be? The 10 can't be made up of 1 and 9, it can't be made up of 2 and 8, and because of this 7, it can't be 3 and 7, so it must be 4 and 6. The number in between those must be a 5. Where's the 9 going to be? That has to be up here, clearly with the 2. And now we've got 3 and 7 to place. And the 3 over here has resolved which row that goes in. So we've got the full set of triples in each row down here. And that's how I started. I mean, I can't imagine there's a much better way to start, but I know that as the puzzle goes on, I struggle to find ways to break into other parts. Now again, down here, this one has an 8, so clearly that can't have a 9 or 8 in it. So I've removed the 9 and 8 from its column. And down here, just on the same principle that we knew where the 1 was from 11, 8, 11, so amongst 7, 14, 11, we know where the 1 must be. It must be in the 7 with the 6. Now that's reduced these to 4 and 5 and these to 7 and 8. Well, it can't be 7 and 8. It can't be 7 in this column as the highest number, so it must be 9 and 5. In this column, therefore, we've got a 4. That can't go with the 7, in fact, because that would, the 2 or 3 above it would actually turn out to be the lowest number. So that had to be the 8 and 3 in that column, and that resolved the rest of that box. So at least one box is done. We're about nearly 4 minutes in. It's a decent start. Now this 5 up here, that has to include 1 and 4. It can't be the 5 made up of 2 and 3 because no number can come in between them. So given the 1 and 4 down here, we can be fairly explicit where the 1 and 4 go. The other number in that triple must be a 2 or a 3, but we don't know which one. Now where does the 9 go in this box? Well, it can't be in this row because that would need a 1 with it, and the 1 is up here. So the 9 must go down here with the 5. We have to fit the 2 and the 3 into the top 3 cells because this one must be 6 or 8 here. Something in between 5 and 9. And we can use, I think this, yeah, the same principle on the downs applies. Where does the 1 go on the downs? Well, in fact, the 9 and 5 have to be this way round because the 7 couldn't have a 9 in it. Yeah, we could work out the 10 can't have a 1 in it because it now can't have a 9 in it too. So the 1 has to be over here. And that's going to mean that this 7 is actually made up of 1 and 6 with the 5 coming in between. So that's the way I would progress up here. Although what I actually did at the time was to establish that those had to be 2 and the 8, I think, had to be in this column because 8 couldn't be here because 2 needs to be in this column too. So that had to be in 8 and 2 both have to be in column 2. It's poor. I should have spotted this 1 and 6 combination up here as well. I haven't managed to do that yet. It's a bit more visible watching this puzzle through the second time. Okay, I've got the 1 now, so surely I can see the 6. As it is, I'm placing 2s elsewhere because I know that 2s, okay, I've got the 6 now. Now, the 6 can't be the highest or lowest in those 3 because it would have to be with the 4. So now these must be 2 and 8. If one of them is 2 and 8, the other must be 2 and 8. Oh no, that's quite wrong, sorry. Okay, well thank God I spotted that. Yes, 2 and 8 both had to be in the 10 column. That was how the 10 was made up, of 2 and 8. So in fact, this cell over here couldn't be 2 or 8, so that pair had to be 7 and 3. Wow, okay, well at least I got it right at the time. Now, over here we've got an 8, 9, 12, and that'll tell us where the 9 goes, which row the 9 goes in, because it can't go in the 8 row, it would be too many, and there's a 9 over here. It can't go in the 9 row, because that obviously is already too many. So the 9 has to be at the top here, with a 3 to be the minimum. And it's annoying I haven't spotted that immediately. And look at this 11, 11, 10 combination. Again, that's telling us where the 1's going to be, or at least in which column it's going to be, because it can't be in one of the columns with the 11. Similarly up here, we've got 9, 12, 7. Again, we can work out where the 9 must be, because it can't be in the 9 column or the 7 column. And those are the sort of deductions I should have been making at this point. The 6 is a very low number. It could be 1 and 5, or it could be 2 and 4, but can't decide which one it is. So let's see how long it takes me in actual fact to work out either that 11, 11, 10, this 12, 9, 8, or the 9, 12, 7. They're all giving something away. And unfortunately, I'm not very quick to work out what it is. I don't know what I'm actually thinking about when I'm just sitting there not making any progress at this point. And it's quite a frustrating puzzle type because you can fill complete boxes here and here, but even then, until you see what these combinations of numbers are specifically giving you, there's not a simple way to make further progress immediately. And we'll just keep waiting till I spot something. It's poor, this, isn't it? Not very good. And possibly a little unnecessary. I mean, this 11 up here can't be made up of 7 and 4. They're already in the column. Clearly can't be 6 and 5 because you can't put another number in between those. So it must be either 2, 9 or 3, 8. Whereas this one could be 4, 7 as well. Okay, now I've spotted finally that the 9 has to be in the top row. So that's also going to put a 3 there. That's going to make a 9 in this row of the second box and a 3 in this row of the third box. Sorry, in this row of the second box as well. So now this 9 can't be made up of 7, 2 or 3, 6 because those numbers appear over here, and it also can't be 4, 5 because you can't get a number in between those. So that must be 1 and 8, and that fixes where the 1s and the 8s go in rows in the second box. Now this 8 can't be 5, 3, and it can't be 1, 7 because the 1's gone in the row above it, so it must be 2, 6. The only number that we can fit in between 2 and 6 can't be 3, which is up there, can't be 5, which is over here, so it must be 2, 4, 6. And that, because of the position of this 7, we can place the 7 in the top row, and we've got 1, 5, 8 there. Now, this 1, 4, 7 has eliminated some of the possibilities in this column, but it could still be 9, 2 or 3, 8 as the pair that decides what's going on. Now I'm just filling in the possibilities here. Now, I mean, it's about time that I saw that the 9 has to be in the column with the 12 in it. Hopefully I'm going to spot that next. That's also therefore going to have the 3 in it. Yeah, I finally spotted it there. That's going to have the 3 in it to go with the 9. That fixes this 1 and 7 down here because this one can't be a 7 in a column with a 7 in it. And that allows me to finish the whole box at the top apart from these two, 5 and 8. Actually, the 5 and 8 can be finished. The 5 must be in this cell because if it was an 8, that would be the max number in its column. And that's a bit of pretty poor solving that I couldn't disentangle those straight away. Really not thinking very clearly. Now I've started limiting the possibilities down here and then looking at 10, 8 and 10 down there to see which of them are resolvable quickly. One of the 10s must be 9 and 1, and in fact we can tell now it clearly can't be the middle column because 9 can't fit in a column with an 8 clue. Can't be 9 and 1 in this column because there's a 1 up here. So in fact it has to be 9 and 1 in this column of 10s. That's going to make 2 and 6 the numbers to make up 8 here, and therefore 3 and 7 are the numbers to make up 10 over here. It's a bit easier second time around, I have to say. That 8 has at last resolved the 5, 8 that I could have resolved earlier. So again, boxes are really coming together very nicely. Now, something I did notice as I was going along was that you kind of can never possibly finish this central box until you've done everything else which has got clues around it. No givens in the grid and only clues to the outside 3 cells. This central box effectively has no clues. So I'm going to have to wait before I can resolve that. Now I'm still not certain which of these 6 combinations is happening. It's so less likely to be 2, 3, 4, but it could be. This 10 combination could have the 9 and 1 in it. If that had the 9 and 1 in it, this would be 2, 3, 4. This would have to be 5, 8. And that would make this a 3, but it's just not certain. If the 9 was down here in the 13 column, that would be 9, 4. That would have to be 5, 1. And then you could have 2 and 8 in this row. So it's a little difficult to know how to proceed at this point. So for now, I'm marking time by filling in the column triples that we've established from above and below the central box. And I think maybe, I think at this point I'm kind of going through a routine in my head to try and work out how to decide whether this is 2, 3, 4 or 1 and 5. Now, the way to do that and cut through the time issue for me is to try it, basically. So in the end, I end up trying to see if this is 2, 3, 4, will it work? Because if it's not, it'll probably get disproved fairly quickly. So it is a bifurcation, I'm afraid. Sorry for those fans who hate the bifurcations, but I'm going to try this as 2, 3, 4 and see where that leads us. And I'm afraid it's taken me a little too long to decide whether I can spot something that's more deducible or just go for it. And again, I mean, up here, the giveaway is here. This 10 has to have the 1 in its column. I should have known that because neither of the 11s can use 1. So the 1 and 9 are there. That's the way to make progress here. And I'm afraid I don't think I do spot that. I go for this bifurcation, and that's where a lot of the time on this puzzle got wasted. It's all very well using as an excuse that I hadn't seen this puzzle type before, but I've already by this stage in the puzzle seen enough of how the outside clues are working to make that deduction fairly clear, and it's a pretty poor effort not to be able to see that this is 9 and 1 here, because that would really help resolve everything much quicker. So apologies about that. Sometimes being human, these things don't go very well. And I mean, still, minutes are ticking by and I can't work out how I should be progressing, which is very frustrating. I keep thinking this 8 is going to be helpful. It has to either be 7 and 1 or 2 and 6, but neither is ruled out. So I'm afraid I'm not making that successful deduction. And surely it's about time that I start bifurcating on this 6. I'm pretty sure that's what happens next. Oh my goodness, I don't know. I mean, just sitting here waiting to work out that that's about the only way I can make progress. Actually, it'd be interesting to see if I had worked out the 9 and 1 up there. 9, 3, 7. That's going to have to be 7, 4. 9, 1. That 3 goes with an 8. The 2, 6 there is still unresolved, I think. Yeah, maybe it's not a complete giveaway. Oh no, that 9's really helpful. That sorts out this 8-9 pair. The 2-3 pair gets resolved. Yeah, that's the way to go. So I think I have now decided to go with 2, 3, 4 and see if it'll work. 16 minutes into this puzzle. I mean, what a terrible puzzle for me. Again, I've had several of those in this set. I honestly can't say that this would have gone better if I'd been using pencil and paper, but there we go. I mean, at least this is now giving me some traction to work out what's going on here. The 12 could still be either 5 and 7 or 8 and 4. In fact, whichever it is must resolve this 5 or 8 square. And yes, I think I've worked, yes, the 7 can't be in this row because 8 would require the 7 to be with a 1. and there's no 1 possible there. So that's how that gets resolved. The bottom square, the bottom row there must be 2 and 6. 8 has to go with the 4 to make that 12. And now we can finish off that box. Now we can attack the central box and almost finish that off. That's a 3 and a 4. This is a 1-5 pair, but surely now we can come over here. Look at this 13. Clearly can't be 9 and 4 or 6 and 7. Sorry, so that has to be 5, 8. And once that's 5, 8, that resolves the 5, 1 pair. Now we're coming down to triples over here. And that's the full set of possibilities remaining. Now we just have to work out, I think, well, I mean, ironically, I may still have to come back and make progress on this 10, 11, 11 set up here after all that time. It's just hopeless to realize that I'm still going to have to come back to that, which would have helped so much earlier. I'm noticing a 5, 8 pair in column 8, but it's not actually particularly helpful. Yeah, all the across combinations have been resolved, so it's really only these down ones at the top that need to be done at this point. And I think finally, surely, I'm going to notice that these two have to be 9, 3 and 9, 2 and 8, 3, and therefore, no, sorry, that this has to be the 9, 1 combination. Surely I'm going to notice it. I mean, it's taking a ridiculous length of time. Oh, it's quite painful. I hadn't realised it was this bad, I have to say. Yeah, finally noticed that that can't be a 1. And there we are. A deduction that could have been made 10 minutes ago finally happens now. That 3 is going to resolve this 2, and then we can get away from there. Oh, okay, I've worked out that's 3, 8 as a pair. That can't actually be a 2 now for various reasons. Okay, so that's resolving this triple. That takes out that pair. The 8, 9 is resolved. 3, 2 is resolved because... How was the 3 and 2 resolved? Oh yes, the 8, 3 to make the 11 at the bottom. And there we go, finally a finish. As I say, that's hardly a good time, and I mean, I really feel that was 10 minutes wasted up there. Painful waste of time, but that's what it sometimes takes. I hope that will allow several of you to have beaten me in solving this, and I certainly don't begrudge you that if that's occurred. So thank you very much for watching. Sorry it was such a painful drag with the second puzzle. I mean, I thought the first was a really good classic, so at least you should have enjoyed that as well. And I will return at some point to finish off the series with the last 2 variant puzzles, and let's hope they're not quite as painful. Bye for now, and see you next time.